ladies and gentlemen, your favorite artist by streams and followers. Now, that's not necessarily a big deal, but it's a very tricky conversation because a lot of people, when you say this about whoever their favorite artist is, they don't want to believe it, and they take it as if it's an insult. And I believe my theory for why they do that is because they are, how you say, stupid. So because many people, they can't look at these nuanced topics from different angles, they just assume that it's automatically you trying to dunk on their favorite artist when that's not necessarily the case. It's the same thing we saw with the industry plant conversation. So who a lot of people who just simply can't look at these topics with any nuance. When you say a particular artist may be an industry plant, a lot of people take that as if you're saying that their favorite artist is not talented and not worthy of being given a big platform. And that's not necessarily the case. You can be a talented artist who's worthy of a big platform and then still an industry plant at the same time. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. You could be both of those, you could be all of those things at the same time. And the same thing applies in this conversation. You could have a very popular artist who still him or her, or whatever they are, the label and the artist are still, despite their popularity, they are still buying streams anyway. Many of you may not know who I am, but in my life I've crossed paths with artists who were fairly popular, not mega stars like Drake or Kendrick Lamar, but I've still crossed paths with several artists who are very popular or popular within their own right, who behind closed doors, they even admitted that they have bought followers. They have bought streams. Now, I'm the reason I'm getting into this is because reports came out recently on a platform called Chart Data, which reports a lot of things related to the music industry and like Billboard and things of that nature. They reported via Twitter that Spotify had removed notable streaming volume from tracks across genres for the third month in a row, which translation means they basically did a recount of how many real views artists allegedly got, and they took away what they believe are like the bot streams. So this is similar to 10 years ago when Instagram did a purge where they eliminated fake followers from many people's accounts, and people like Kim Kardashian and Mace, overnight they lost millions of followers in the blink of an eye, especially Mace. He went from like 2 million followers to like 200,000. Now, I am not a Spotify fan at all. I've had my music up on Spotify. I took it down. I know some people, they'll be very quick to say, "Oh, you're a nobody and nobody listens to you." But in reality, I know I've gotten on more playlists and I've gotten more streams than many of the people who would make that lame ass joke in the first place. But that's neither here nor there. Either way, I'm not a big fan of Spotify, and this conversation to me is a bit fascinating because Spotify is claiming they're trying, by their actions, I guess they're trying to give off the idea that they want to crack down on bots. But the elephant in the room is, number one, most of their traffic is bots, and they've benefited from said bots. I know they have, because they don't want to go into the conversation about artists or ghost artists that Spotify has created. For y'all that don't know, there have been many reports coming out over the past year or two showing that Spotify is out here generating their own artists who don't actually exist, and then boosting up their streams and getting them to the point where they're generating all of these streams even though the artist doesn't exist, and that money goes right back to Spotify. But when it comes to this current story that's coming out, I guess they're trying to crack down on artists, both big and small, who they believe are botting, which some of them, some of those artists, like smaller artists, they may not be botting at all, but then again, they may be. And so are the big artists. Now, rapper Russ, he put up a response to this tweet from Chart Data where his exact words were, Spotify is removing stream counts from big artists who are faking their streams but won't release the names of said artists. LMAO, y'all, the artists and labels doing this, are losers. Now, I don't know if I would go as far as saying they're losers, but I do understand the bigger point that he's trying to get across, which is, a lot of, when it comes to buying followers and streams, in my opinion, like, it can work to an extent, but it's kind of overrated. It can, it still can only get you so far, but you got to ask the question, why do artists buy bots? Why do labels buy bots in the first place? And this is, to me, an obvious answer, but this is something that I feel like many fans overlook all the time, which is the reason that they do this in the first place is because fans are followers. Yes, you listening right now. Yes, you. See, in 2025, I have a lot of smoke for fans. Just general music fans, I really do. Because many of these music fans do not look in the mirror, but they will blame artists and they will blame labels for every little thing, including music not sounding as good as they want it to, or music sounding all the same, all of these things. And while artists and labels do in fact deserve some blame for that, a big part of the blame also needs to go to the fans. Now, you might be wondering, why am I saying that? Why would I say that? Well, when it comes to this topic here, when it comes to artists buying followers or streams, the reason they're doing that is because they know that you guys are followers. They know that most of you will not listen to something that's not already popular. So since they know that, they have to put together some smoke and mirrors to make an artist seem more popular than they actually are, so they can brainwash you into liking that artist. Because many of you, not all of you, but many people are not really music fans. They're just music consumers. And many of these music consumers, they don't actually have any real taste or preferences in music. They just like whatever their friends like, whatever their coworkers like, whatever their classmates like, whatever the people in their neighborhood likes, whatever is on the top 40 radio, whatever is perceived to be the popular thing, that's what they're gonna hop on the bandwagon of. Now, there are some real music fans out here who will check out something that may be unknown or underrated. They'll check out some more underground or some more obscure artists. But for those fans, and some of you might be listening, have you ever trying to introduce a underrated or unknown artist to somebody else that you know? If you tried it before, you know that it's a frustrating experience, because many people, if you try to introduce them to an artist who's not that popular but makes good music, instead of them listening to the music, they'll just say that, well, this artist isn't popping, and they'll just dismiss it automatically. Nothing is more laughable and ridiculous than people seeing you as an artist who's smaller, trying to build up some traction. They'll be quick to rush and say that, oh, you suck. But then if you go on these same people's profiles on social media and you see the music that they are co-signing, that they're using in their Instagram stories, that they're using as background music for their pictures, when you see the music they are promoting and saying that they like, when they're posting screenshots of their playlist or whatever, when you see what type of music they are consuming, what makes it so laughable is they're listening to music far worse than anything that you're making. They're calling you whack, but then you check their profile and they're posting screenshots of their playlist that has like a bunch of songs from Lil Pump. So the bigger point is, these artists and these labels, they know that they have to convince you that an artist is already popping for many of you to actually like that artist in the first place. They know they have to. Why do you think every time artists, rappers, or any genre, when they drop, there's always all this commotion and hoopla surrounding how much they sold their first week, what type of numbers they streamed their first week? There's all of that attention because they know that the numbers reported can make or break your perception of that artist. And since they know that, they know they have to juice up these numbers to make it look more impressive than it is, because otherwise, if the numbers look a little underwhelming, many of you, instead of just focusing on the music, many of you will just turn around and be like, well, he fell off, she fell off, they're done, they're cooked, and then just stop messing with them. Stop checking their stuff out, which could cause them to actually start to fall off. So just a thought or two I wanted to throw out there regarding this. Spotify, as Russ pointed out, Spotify has not actually come out and said, and they haven't actually listed what specific artists have been found guilty of, buying streams for their song. So, some people are throwing some names out there, but again, these are names that have been officially thrown out there. It's a tricky conversation. Let me know, do you think this even matters, or do you just want to hear some good music?